paint this place in crimson blood." The voice echoed relentlessly in Yongjun's mind, its sinister whispers searing into his very soul. "Kill, kill, kill. Do not let a single one escape. All who trespass the realm of the Fang monarch must perish." The already possessed Yongjun tightened his grip on the crimson blade, his bloodlust spiraling out of control. Meanwhile, at the evacuation site, the sound of shovels striking the earth echoed through the cavern, reverberating like war drums. Workers exchanged puzzled glances, looking around for the source of the noise, only to freeze in shock. 3 shadow goblins were mining at an inhuman speed, their bodies showing no signs of exhaustion. Even Lim Do-gyun was stunned. He turned to Suho, his voice laced with disbelief. "What kind of summoning skill is this? Most hunters could barely summon 1 creature. Some, if lucky, could summon 2 at most. Yet Suho in E rank had summoned 3 with ease." Lim Do-gyun couldn't shake the feeling that something didn't add up. Suho, unfazed, muttered to himself, "There are downsides to shadow extraction. I am limited to just 3, and it requires corpses. But using the dead goblins from the shadow dungeon for labor while I rest? That is a loophole I can exploit." A familiar voice interrupted his thoughts. "Young master, do not tell me you are using them as slaves instead of leveling up." Beru's voice carried a mix of amusement and concern. Suho chuckled. "That is not the point, Beru. Besides, it is against the rules for an E rank to enter a dungeon alone. The hunter ranking system is still new, and there are too many flaws in mana evaluations. I will go for a second evaluation after I raise my mana level." His tone turned serious. "Beru, do you remember our 3rd task?" Beru tilted his head. "Are you referring to replenishing my strength?" "Exactly. You said you regain energy by consuming anything that contains mana. So go ahead, feast on the mana crystals scattered around the dungeon." Without hesitation, Beru lunged at the shimmering crystals, devouring them greedily. But then, his entire body tensed. "Young master," Beru called out urgently. Suho's expression darkened. "What is it? I sense another monarch's presence." Suho's breath hitched. "Is it my father?" His voice wavered, hope flickering in his eyes. Beru, however, shook his head. "I am afraid not. If it were the monarch of shadows, my strength would have been instantly restored. This presence belongs to someone else." A low growl rumbled through the dungeon. It was deep, feral, and approaching fast. The workers turned pale as red glows flickered in the darkness. Then 3 massive red wolves emerged, their berserk eyes gleaming with bloodlust. Before anyone could react, the mining team scattered in terror, sprinting toward the dungeon exit. One of the workers, in sheer desperation, swung his mining axe at a charging wolf. But, crunch! The wolf's fangs sank into the axe, shattering it like glass. The worker's breath hitched. Despair sank in. Suho dashed forward, grabbing another mining axe and swinging it with full force. Snap! It shattered instantly. "I will buy you time." "Get out of here!" Suho shouted, positioning himself between the red wolves and the terrified workers. His eyes narrowed as he analyzed the beasts. Their names glowed orange, meaning they were about as strong as the D-rank Mistburn monster he had fought on campus. A challenge, but not impossible. But then, he noticed Lim Do-gyun standing firm, despite his obvious fear. "Lim Do-gyun, you should run," Suho urged. Yet Lim Do-gyun clenched his fists. His body trembled, but he refused to retreat. Suho smirked. "Fine, then back me up as my cheerleader." With a flick of his hand, he summoned the goblin trio and opened his inventory. Lim Do-gyun's eyes widened in shock as Suho pulled out a dagger from thin air. "Weapon summoning," he muttered, stunned. But before he could ask, Suho vanished. He shot forward like a bullet, his shadow blurring through the dungeon, and with one clean slash, a red wolf was severed in half. The goblin trio cheered wildly, but Lim Do-gyun stood frozen, his mind struggling to process what he had just witnessed. How? An E-rank should not be able to do this. Suho smirked. "Well then, arise." A dark aura surged from the wolf's corpse. But Suho knew the rule: he could only have 3 shadows at a time, which meant one of the goblins crumbled into darkness, its life sacrificed for the newly awakened shadow wolf. Beru's eyes widened. "Young master, you are mastering shadow extraction faster than I expected." Suho grinned. It does not require mana, and if I increase my mana, I will be able to extract even more. With a swift stab, he pierced another wolf's skull. Arise. Another shadow was born. The last goblin let out a sorrowful wail as it watched its fallen comrades disappear. Suho now had 3 shadow wolves at his command. Lim Do-gyun's voice trembled as he shouted, "What the hell did you just do? An E-rank hunter should not be able to fight like this, let alone resurrect monsters." Suho turned away, his voice low. "You wouldn't believe me, even if I told you." Lim Do-gyun's mind raced. A false ranker. Could he be one of them? Then, a system notification flashed before Suho's eyes. New quest, defeat the enemy. A hostile entity nearby harbors murderous intent. Ensure your survival by eliminating it. Active enemies 1. Enemies defeated 0. Suho frowned. I already killed all the wolves. That means something else is here. A metallic clank echoed through the dungeon. Heavy footsteps approached. Lim Do-gyun sighed in relief. Finally, reinforcements from the strike squad. Suho's heart dropped. "No! Do not get closer," he shouted. Lim Do-gyun hesitated, then froze in fear. The figure emerged from the shadows. Its eyes glowed with a terrifying crimson hue, the same as a dragon's. No, that is not a hunter. That is... Before he could react, the possessed Yongjun struck. The crimson blade descended. Lim Do-gyun barely escaped as Suho yanked him away, the attack splitting his spectacles in half. The sheer impact of the strike left a deep crater in the ground. Suho's shadow wolves lunged at the possessed Yongjun, but the entity laughed in excitement at their endless regeneration. Suho clenched his daggers. If I can kill him, I will level up even faster. With a smirk, he charged forward.